Nope, not in the shop. Getting into something a little different. I have the Creality Ender 3 V2 3D printer. I'm a newbie, know very little about it. We're going to get into it, put it together, coming up. This is a little post-edit update. This video is quite long because I did not edit out any mistakes. I did edit out when I went back and forth for things, but everything you see is how this went during the assembly. I'm Roger, welcome to the shop, and yeah, things look a little bit different because although I am sort of in the shop, I'm actually upstairs from where my shop is. Above where the shop is a two-bedroom apartment that we don't rent that out. We occasionally use it as a guest house. I'm in the little kitchen area there because it is clean and dust-free and warm. A lot warmer up here than it is down in the shop. So I'm going to get into something new. 3D printing, never done it before. Thought it'd be a fun little thing to add to my repertoire of things that I do. So I'm going to be learning about it. I'm going to take you along for the ride. I've watched quite a few videos on other people assembling them and how they use them, and a lot of things are kind of glossed over from what I've seen. So this assembly video is going to be highly detailed. I'm going to take everything just step by step. I'm going to be going as I learn here, so to speak. One thing I did do was, before this got here, was download the assembly manual and instructions. I know that a manual comes with this, but I've seen the size of it, and with these old eyes here, I need something, I need the large print edition. So I printed out an 8.5 by 11, and we have a binder, so I put it in a spiral bind, and I'll be able to follow along with this. I've also watched the video that I know comes with this, and I got that loaded on my laptop over here if I need to refer to it. Like I said, I've never done this before. This is going to be something new. I'm going to be learning some new things here along the way. I know one of the things that's used is called a slicer to get things set up for printing. And before that, things need to be designed in CAD. Okay, now in CAD, now there's something I'm familiar with, but only in 2 dimensions. I'm very adept with AutoCAD electrical. I can do electrical diagrams, whether they be switchgear diagrams, electrical layouts, maybe ladder diagrams for logic. Those I do. As far as the 3-dimensional modeling, I've never done it. Back when I went to college, AutoCAD wasn't really heard of yet because, yeah, I remember I'm an old guy. So everything was, you drew everything out. And one of the things I really had a problem with was anything 3-dimensional other than maybe just a square cube. Because one of the assignments I had, I remember, was to draw a washer, like a flat washer like you put a bolt through, and no matter how hard I tried, it ended up looking like a donut or a tire or some other deformed thing, but it would never look like a washer. But anyway, I digress. Then I'm going to have to learn some programming language, the G code for getting the X, Y, and Z axis all set up. Now the X, Y, and Z I'm familiar with. I'm also somewhat familiar with G code because I worked on CNC machines in the past when I was working as an electrician to troubleshoot the machine. I never wrote the code. I know what it is, but I've never actually done it. So I'm going to be learning something a little bit different there. I do know some programming codes. I mean, working in the electrical field, I know Modbus. I know Ion. Back in college, the computer languages I learned were BASIC, COBOL, Fortran, which nobody uses anymore because that was back in the early 80s. So yeah, those are long gone. I know Alan Bradley. I don't normally do unboxing videos because generally I think anybody could take stuff out of a box. But since I'm a newbie, and if you're watching this, you're probably a newbie, we're going to take this a step at a time here. Open this up, see what I got. This just came yesterday. I'll let it sit up here for a day to warm up because it was cold in the back of that FedEx truck that delivered it. It's 35 degrees. So some foam in here. clutter up the floor up here with that. And this would be the manual and the card and all that kind of good stuff. Set that over here out of the way. Yeah, let's see, how does this come out here exactly? Guess we'll take the parts and pieces out first. I will say it's well packed. There's a display. And you can see this is the extruder just by looking at the top of it. This is the spool holder. A couple of the extrusions. Looking at how best to take this out of here, I may take this whole thing out, foam thing out, because there's another layer of stuff underneath. I think I'm going to set this off to the side. This is the bed, and we'll get the other stuff out, and then I'll put the bed out here. This is one of the rare times that I do a complete unboxing, but with power cord. One of these. There's the Z-axis stepper motor. See that because it has the coupling on it for the Z-axis rod. Some bearings. I will say this is really well packed. There's the other set of extrusions. Comes with a toolkit, some tie wraps, and may not be necessarily using these tools because I have my own up here. Since I'm an electrician, I have a lot of this precision stuff. And they're probably a little better quality than that, and they have actual handles on them like screwdrivers. I guess the scraper for getting your print off the glass if it sticks. Not bad, I guess. Belt tensioner. And a bag of a whole bunch of little parts and pieces here we'll get into. So get the box out of the way. The bed out of here. The bed, the hot end is already pre-assembled. I'm going to be doing a couple of upgrades to this as I build this. Since I've been watching some of the other people, other videos and mods and everything you would do these, one of the things I'm going to do is upgrade to the Capricorn Bowden tube. I'm going to be upgrading to the Capricorn Bowden tube and the collets to go with that because they're a lot better quality. And on the bed leveling, aside from getting these spiffy aluminum wheels here, I'm going to be upgrading to the little bit stiffer spring, which makes the bed leveling work a little bit better. And I'll probably be doing that actually before I assemble everything else because it'll be easier to do at that point. But to not get all the parts mixed up here, throw these back in the envelopes. And we'll see what we got in this little bag of goodies. There's the Z-axis limit switch, a couple of Bowden tubing collets. There's the micro SD card with the little USB reader. sample filament. And we have some hardware. And each little bag is marked. This is kind of nice. Actually tells you what's in there in both English and Chinese. I don't read Chinese, so I'll have to go by the English. There's the belt. The covers for the ends of the extrusions. More screws. More screws. Extruder knob. Brass insert in it. I don't know how well this will fit. Where'd the extruder go? There it is. I've had a lot of people say it fits too loose. It does. It's injection molded, I see, but it has a brass insert in it. Yeah, it's pretty loose on there, but it's easy to take on and off. I won't say it's real sloppy. And some more bags of hardware, a couple T-nuts, more screws. Again, everything is, I think it's very well packed, it's very well protected. These are wrapped in plastic, and in between the two pieces is another piece of plastic so they don't rub on each other and transit and get scratched. There's my Z-axis rod right there, which is protected by a plastic sleeve. These are the gantry extrusions. They too are wrapped in plastic, with plastic in between to keep them from being scuffed in shipping. Somebody put some thought into their packaging. Okay, now I just need to gather up some tools here. And one of the first things I'm going to do is the mod to the table for the bed leveling is to put the stiffer springs on. And the I'm going to put nylock nuts on these screws that people complain about they turn when they're trying to adjust their bed. So there's a little hack to fix that. The glass bed is held on with these little metal clips here. And I've got a parts tray over here. I'll just put those must be stainless steel because they don't stick to the magnet. And set the glass off somewhere so I don't lose it. I turn this up on the side so maybe you can see what I'm doing. Get a little balancing act going here. It doesn't balance too well. So what I'm going to be doing is taking these leveling wheels completely off. I'll be doing them one at a time. Well, I guess I'll have to do all four because I won't be able to get the little nuts on. So we'll take all four of those off. And I already got a screw spinning. Hence that's the need for the nuts. So when that glass bed is on there, you can't hold the head of the screw. I'll take these out so I don't lose anything. Yeah, the other screw's spinning too. There we go. So you got to be careful there. You don't damage the holder for the bed heating. So what I'm going to be putting on here are called nylock nuts. They're a little nut with a nylon insert, and I'll be threading those on. Which means I need to hold one side with a Phillips screwdriver while I turn the other side with a nut driver. Well, that's going to get old in a hurry. I'm going to go get a cordless drill and do that. Just turn the... Okay, this should make things go a lot quicker. Except my nut driver isn't deep enough. Well, I got a solution to that too. You just want to snug up to the base. You don't need to over crank it. You got to be careful of these little wires right here too, that you don't damage something. These are M4 nuts, by the way, if you're going to do this mod. That'll take care of that. I'll get this back together. So the guy goes on here. Except I can't see the hole.
Yeah, these springs are quite a bit stiffer. I'm going to roll this over to do the other side so I can see what I'm doing a little better. I should have put spring on there first. There's a little bit of a hub that sticks out on one side and not on the other. You got to make sure that hub side is toward, you got to make sure this hub side is towards the plate, or the wheel will rub. Okay, just like that. I'll put the glass back on after I get everything else assembled. I don't really need to have that in the way right now. Now to get the book. Said I printed this out to make it a little bit bigger and easier to see. They give you a list of all your parts and pieces there and what comes with it, and accessory list and all your nuts and bolts. Okay, the first thing is the Z-axis limit switch and the Z-axis profiles. These other springs out of the way here. And don't need these wheels right now. Save those for spare parts. Yeah, I have this facing me right now. There's a little drawer in the front here for storing your tools in and such. So with it facing the front to me, these are not identical. One of them has two holes spaced far apart. That'll go on the right side, and it doesn't make any difference which way because the power supply on this is now mounted underneath, and this was originally on the Ender 3 and Ender 3 Pro was to mount the power supply to. However, on the left side, you'll have one here with two small holes at the bottom. That is for the Z-axis limit switch. Which is right here. I get the bag open. Or you just get frustrated and you cut it. There's two little T-nuts already mounted on it, like this. You need to loosen those up quite a bit. I'm very familiar with T-nuts because in the electrical trade, we use these a lot, except they're called spring nuts because they have a little spring on them. And what happens is, as you tighten these up, the nuts turn. Make sure I get this in there the right way. You want the limit switch facing up. You could also put this in afterwards, but I'm going to stick it in there now and just move it up there a ways. Just lightly tighten these up. And I need the screws to go into the bottom. And they are M5 by 45. That would be these. Amazing how much trash you accumulate when you're putting something together. Turn this guy up on the side here, so make it a little bit easier to handle. And there are holes milled out in the bottom. You'll see where these go. Something that I've heard mentioned in a few different other assembly videos and that I've watched is sometimes these don't end up square. So you may need to adjust for squareness because you would be able to move them this way and this way. You're not going to be able to move it that way as long as this here was milled correctly. So we'll do the one on the other side. This is one of the concerns that people had, was that they would twist this way. We'll check that when we put the gantry together. I guess I could do a quick check for square here. I have a little machinist square. And that is perfect there. That is perfect there. I just noticed I put the limit switch in the wrong slot. A little gotta go. Because it goes over here. I'm not going to snug that up real tight yet because I know it'll need to be adjusted. Limit switches always do. Here, next step is going to be the Z-axis motor. So I need to find my Z-axis motor and the rod. Make sure that end is square. We're going to butt these two ends together. Okay, turn this around so I'm looking at it from the back. Move the extruder out of the way here. This goes on right back here like so. And for that, we need M4 by 18 countersunk. M4 by 18 countersunk, that would be these. Well, these are just a little bit of a challenge. You want to drop those in there first. Bring that up to where the hole is for it. I'm just checking there to make sure everything was square and I didn't have any wobble in the bottom, and I don't. So we're good there. And the next step is to install the pneumatic joint, the XC axis kit, and the synchronous belt. I'll have to go gather up my... Okay, this is where the Bowden tube feeds in, and the fitting for that needs to get put on there. And I'm going to be using the upgraded ones with the Capricorn. So I guess I'll grab that out of the package instead of having to try to swap them out later. And that screws right into this here. I'm not going to take that any more than finger tight for right now. Well, I guess I could tighten it. There's the wrench. Okay. Okay, the next on the X-axis profile here, you give two extrusions, and I'll hold them up like this. This one here with the two holes on each end, that's the one that's going to go up here on the top. It doesn't actually specify that in there, but I kind of figured that out pretty quick once I grabbed these two. So we'll set that aside for now. Okay, if you're looking at the picture in the book that comes with this, this is not real clear, but there's a little indentation right here where it's been milled out, and the two ends are not the same. You're going to go with the end that has the milled out hole farther in, and then you'll have your bracket. That head right here of this bracket fits in this milled out hole, like so. And then there's two screws to put in that I need to find. M4 by 16, two of them. All right. I'm only going to put one in right now because I know from watching other people put these together, if you put that in, you're going to have to take it back out when you put the belt tensioner on it. And on the other end of the extruder assembly, there's another milled out spot right here. That's where this screw head will set. And there's two screws you need to put in from down. This is going to be kind of interesting. I think I'll put the screws in the holes first. This is a little dexterity test here. You have to access those holes through the upper plate. I should say access the screws through the upper plate. That one's really close to the motor. Okay, now for the belt. I know you have to take this apart first. Okay, I just swapped camera batteries there. Battery went dead in my cameras. So, to get the belt. And this goes around a wheel down here in the end. Even says Gates power belt. Wow. Well, come on now. Needs to run down through this groove, but I've got to get it started in there. Just want to go every which way but in. There we go. And I probably should have run that through there before I put the hot end on, because wheel won't run over that. Which means I need to loosen this back up again. And we'll slide this off. Just all the way through there. This is why I'm doing the whole build video on this, because you can see my mistakes and you won't make them. The belt goes into a little slot right here. You want to make sure the teeth are facing down. And by down, I mean towards the extrusion. On this end is where we have to pass it through the tensioner, which just flops around wherever it wants to go. Then the other end goes through a similar slot, just like the first one. Well, you'd think that'd be easy. So I've got the belt wrapped around something that shouldn't be. If you watch the assembly video, there's a pause in the video where the guy in the video is having trouble doing this too. That's the Creality video that they send you on the SD card. Another test of dexterity here. It's going to need a little help. There we are. On this end, one side has a countersink and the other side doesn't. The side with the countersink goes on the side away from the wheels. Okay, you probably watched me fumbling around with that. There's a little groove right here on the side of the tensioner. That has to follow a groove inside of the tensioner piece here. Okay, that was a struggle. It shouldn't have been that hard. That little blue knob started back on there. And there is a countersunk screw that comes with the tensioner. That goes on the countersink side. Don't tighten your tension up too tight before you put the screw in. Play cowboys and Indians here and surround it. On the opposite side you have the same, but now you use the panhead type screw. Well, I've had people say in other videos I've watched that these screws actually hit each other when you screw them in, and they do. So I'll go get a little flat washer to put on that. It requires going down to the shop. Okay, one washer made to order. And now it grabs. And no wobble. Okay, we get to put this thing on here. This slips right on here like so. And then the rod needs to go into this little brass collar here. Well, the next thing is to adjust the tension on the eccentric nuts on these rollers, but I have absolutely no play here whatsoever. This is like it's set perfect. I may play with one just to see what it does. It's supposed to move freely up and down with no wobble, and by golly, I have no wobble. So you gotta like that. Turn this guy around here for a minute and get this belt tensioned up. You don't want too much tension on it. You want just enough that there's no belt slack hanging down. It is a toothed belt. Everything seems to be in order there. And we also need to set the tension on the y-axis here. I like that. Okay, the next is to put the top of the gantry on. which sets like so. And for this, we use M5 by 25, and we have 5 of them in this package, only need 4. If you look at the extrusion, one side has no milling out on around the screw heads, the other side does. The side that does has to go up, otherwise these socket head cap screws will not fit down inside the extrusion. Just doing a little check here to make sure everything's square. If one of these were twisted, I'd be able to see light down between the extrusion and the side here. That's what I'm checking here. Because that would make the things bind a little bit. And we have no twist. And I'm going to have to pull this a little bit to get that squared up. No binding or anything. No wobble. So next is the spool holder. That we got a couple of M5 by 8s. And a couple of T-nuts. These again, the T-nuts just stick screwed up through the hole, if I can get it. Start the T-nut on just a thread or two. You don't want it very far. You won't get it down into the profile. That sits on top, just like that. And the spindle holder spool, or the spool holder, right there, and there's a nut that goes in the back of it. That's all there is to that. That's probably the easiest thing out of this whole works. Of course, then we got the little knob that sits on top of the extruder there. Now, before I go any farther, I'm going to be changing this tube that came with it to the Capricorn tube. To do that, I'm going to have to take this fan cover off. So there's a single screw at the back to remove that. Find the right tool here. Try not to lose a screw. Looks like it hinges off to the side then. I'm doing this upgrade before I even get started so that I won't have to mess around with this later. And this kit comes with thread compound already on the threads. And it comes with this little kit, comes with this neat little cutter to make sure you have a square end. Just like that. And once it's down there and touches, I'll tighten this up the rest of the way. That way I know I've got a good square fit on the hot end there. And I need the collet clip. Stick that out the back for now and put the fan cover back on. I remember how to do that. And it's a matter of getting that little screw back in there. Well, you can see where this is going to be a nuisance if you need to take this off very often. Collet clip can't be sticking straight out. I found that out. Now this is going to need to be tied to this loom. This is the one where it used to go through, so I'll just cut it off out of the way and replace it. And I won't go any farther until I get my other end in and get everything else hooked up. No, you're probably not going to have one of these. Well, I was an electrician, so I've got one. That way it cuts it and there's no sharp edge there whatsoever. If you've ever cut these off and snagged yourself on it, you'll know why I use one of these. Okay, got a couple more things to mount here yet. I got to get the display mounted on it. And we got some wiring to hook up, some bed leveling to do. The display has T-nuts already installed. You just need to loosen the screws up and slide it into the extrusion. And the protective cover on the display. Take that off. This ribbon cable here, which is keyed, only plugs in one way, so don't try to force it. This plugs right in. It locks back down, just like that. Okay, we got some wires to hook up. Limit switch is supposed to be marked. It's got a little Z on it, Z axis. The limit switch is the smaller one. We'll plug in the limit, and the larger one is for the motor. Here again, these only go in one way, so don't try to force them. Okay, on the back here, I know the limit is inside of, yeah, that'll be fun. Limit's inside here. Trying to get this on camera, but then I can't see what I'm doing. Well, when you got fat fingers, you get a tool. It isn't real easy when you have it the right side around. Motor will plug in. And then we got one here that's marked E for extruder. And I think I'll add one more tie wrap up here to, I call them tie wraps, some people call them zip ties, cable ties. Get my length for my Bowden tube here. Guess I could have gone off the old one. Maybe it's a little longer here. Enough there to make another one if I need, when I need it, if and when. That just runs in there till it's tight. Then the collet clip goes on. So you drop it. Just like that. Next I need to do some bed leveling and some limit switch setting. Okay, I've put the glass back on here. I want to get some kind of halfway close thing here with the bed leveling. And I need to move that limit switch up. You can see that right now. I've got the bed all the way down. Leaving about 1 millimeter under there. I'm moving this limit switch up until it just makes. Now I've got some movement here where I don't want it. I need to tighten that up. That's where these little eccentric nuts come in. Much better. Now we'll get back to the bed leveling thing here. I'm just doing an approximation right now to get things kind of close. I'll go back and get precise with it. Okay, got it so that I can make damn sure that it's not going to hit the plate. Got everything down below. Should be quite a bit below where it needs to be. And clean up some trash here and set the power on this. The switch on here needs to be set for 120 volt or 110 volt. And right now it's at 230. We'll switch that over to 115. It says okay. We'll buy that. And we'll get the power cord. Things powered up. Okay, ready for a power up here. Oh, the display lights up. That's a good thing. Okay, we need to go to repair. And disable stepper. Okay, and here I can level the bed. And I need a piece of paper. Tear the corner out of the book. That's a piece of paper. Kind of get an idea of where I need to go here. What drives you nuts about this is every corner you change will change the opposite corner. So getting this initially set up, it's kind of a stinker. But each time it takes less of an adjustment. I can see where people get frustrated with this. If I change this corner here, that corner will change. And then when I change that corner, you got to keep going back and forth. Oops, not that far. You got to keep going back and forth here until you get it. By golly, I think we've got it. Okay, so got the thing put together, got the bed level, and I'm going to end this part right here. I'll make the next part where I do the initial tests and get the filament loaded and do a test print. I don't want this to be excruciating.
Post-edit update number 2. How long did it take me to actually do this? Including fooling around with moving cameras around and this and that. About 4 hours. So it's not a half-hour job. Just something to keep in mind. And take your time. Don't hurry.
I don't want this to be horribly long, so we're going to end it right here. If you got something out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up. Of course, we're always looking for subscribers, and next to that little subscribe button's a bell. If you ring that bell, you'll be notified when I post another video. And again, I'm a newbie at this. I'm learning all this as I go, and I'm taking you along for the ride. So this isn't one of those, I'm real experienced and here's how it works, and we threw it together, and here's how it prints. And no, we're going to go through this, including any mistakes I may make. So you'll get to go right along with on it. So you'll get to go right along on the ride with me.